evening. Good evening. Uh, what is it? 10 to 12, ending the hump day of the week. Good evening, Watermelon. How you doing? Tonight, I just want to jump up here and talk about discernment, right? So the definition of discernment is the ability to judge well, or the perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding. So let's just talk about it. Let's have a conversation. So a lot of people use this word discernment. And so discernment is about judging well. How do you judge well? You judge well with the understanding that you need clarity to see things in an aspect to where there's no ups or downs. You see clearly through something, right? Like if you're driving, you got to make sure that you can see clearly what's in front of you before you hit something. It just something. Oh wow. Well, you need to get some rest in Watermelon, because I mean that's a quick overturn, or a quick turnaround rather. Excuse me. So if you look through your rearview mirror, I mean, like you got to make sure you can be able to see things to where there's nothing deterring you from making turns or switching lanes or anything like that. So that's what you need with your discernment of people, right? You have to have a clear view of something, right, to make the decisions in your life. If you going if you going out and you trying to meet somebody, you got to make sure you're not in harm's way. You have to have the discernment that somebody is not out to get you, or you have to understand that you know there's nothing to stopping you from having that good time if you go out. It's okay. So you gotta, with discernment, it's a lot, right? You need clarity of mind, right? If you're going out there to make friends, you have to be very observant in order to have discernment, because you may see red flags and pass them up, or you may see those good signs and worry about if you're making a mistake or not. The choices, the thing about discernment is you have to be understanding and willing to be patient to come to a conclusion, right? If you can't have a discernment if you are in an anger situation. You can't have discernment if you are in a downward state, meaning, if you're feeling depressed or anything like that. The discernment comes in when you have clarity of mind. There's nothing wavering about your thought process. There's nothing wavering about, if I should become a friend, if I should take this man or woman out on a date, depending on your preferences. If I should become a teammate of somebody on a basketball or a sporting event, or anything like that. This discernment kicks in because you need to know we're trying to win. So if you're trying to win, you need to have the best things and best people around you. You got to understand that with discernment, you have to clear out ulterior motives. You got to clear out the selfishness in the certain things that may be coming in your path. You have to have very good discernment when you make these life altering decisions. If you want to go ahead and propose to somebody, fellas, you must have the discernment. You must have a discernment of understanding that you really are ready to have this marriage proposal. You must be willing to understand you have to take what that woman is offering and bring it to your table. Because once you get on bended knee and ask that question, you must have clarity that this is exactly what you want. In a friendship, you must have that clarity to understand that this person I can trust with my life, or this is the person that I know if push comes to shove, they have my back. So you got to have all of these things with discernment. The most important thing is, like I said, clarity. To judge well, to in order to judge well, you must know what's in front of you. You can't keep worrying about what happened in my past. I can't keep worrying about if somebody is out there to come and get me. Miss 702, good evening. You can't keep worrying about those things, right? With discernment, you must have that clear mind and say, I must put that baggage to the side. I can't bring my hurt situations with me. I can't carry the burdens of yesterday's pains. I can't carry that anger into my future decisions. I can't carry those hurts into my upcoming decisions. You have to understand that with discernment, there is a clarity of mind, a clarity of thought, a clarity just to have the conclusion of saying yes or no to a question and not worry about the repercussions of it. You have to stand on your discernment. But in order to stand on your discernment, there must not be any distractions. You must really and truly understand that what you say is what you're gonna do. If I say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and move to California, I must have clarity of why I want to move to California. I just can't go out there on a whim. The discernment is that you made a very good judgment in your life. And if you end up moving to California, you can't doubt your decision. That's the opposite of discernment. You must understand when you come to those conclusions, discernment is you thought it all the way through. There's no ifs, ands, or buts in your decisions. So, if you're going to make that move, you go and make that move. You know, it, it's easier said than done. But of course, there's nothing easy in this world. It takes time, it takes process to come to a discernment attribute. It's nothing new under the sun, but you must have patience in order to get there. And if you don't have that patience, you can't have discernment. There's nothing clear. You got to get all of those things out of your mind. You got to get all of those things out your heart in order to have those decisions, in order for your body to work well. The heart, if you leading with your heart, your mind must match up with your heart. If there's no discernment there's a blockage. There must be room for things to flow easily. But you're not going to flow easily if you got those emotional situations. You're not going to have discernment if you have that rage of somebody's trying to hurt you. You're not going to have discernment if you, like I said, if you feel like somebody's out to get you. So your decisions is never going to be made because it's not clear enough with discernment. You can make a decision, but it's not going to be a clear one with discernment. You'll be responding with anger. You'll be responding with a frustration of never mind, I'll do it. Even if you get in an argument with a person, whether it's a relative, a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. If you just give in, that's not discernment. You just giving into a situation. You can't give into a situation if you are trying to get a clear decision or clear path in what you're trying to get to. If you say, you know what, I want to work hard to start my own company, you must have discernment because if anything is blocking your way, blocking your thought process, you could stumble and lose your job. I mean, lose your position or lose your business before you even have it. So you have to understand that discernment means you have to clear. There has to be a clarity of the judgment. Should I do it or should I not do it? Should I be this person's friend or should I not be their friend? Should I be this person's lover or should I not be this person's lover? Should I go ahead and invest in my family or should I walk away from my family? All of these things must have clarity. You must sit down, weigh all the pros and cons. And when you weigh it all out, it helps you to get to that discernment decision. It's a clear decision. All right, the good outweighs the bad, so I can go ahead and do it. The bad outweighs the good. I'm not going to take that chance. You have to know what the end goal is. if it's a come up with a discernment, you have to have clarity. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not like you know, you can go into a thing wishy-washy. It's not like you can take a job and know that it's paying less than what you need and you take the job. That's not discernment. That's just you. That's something that you just taking on because you feel like you need money. You know what I mean? That's not a clear cut decision. It must be understandable for you to take that position with discernment. It's up to you to have that clear cut path of discernment to say I will be able to succeed or I will be able to fail. You can't make those decisions, like I said, with the anger or the frustration or the rage or the downsides, I mean the downloading of misery and all of those other concepts. You have to have clear mind, clear decision. In order to read somebody, you have to have clarity. You just can't go in there and prejudge somebody and say, well, that person look like they're up to no good, or that person look like they're no good. You must understand, you must take the time to know the person. And I don't care what position it is, whether it's YouTube, whether it's real life, whether it's the fact that you just trying to start a business with somebody or become a friend or pursue something with somebody. You must take the time to sit there and observe. Observation is the key to discernment, right? You know, if you trying to read a person, how could you read a person if you don't sit down and read everything, the good and the bad, and then make that judgment of discernment? You could be my friend. But if that doesn't happen, you're just going with a instinct. That's not discernment. An instinct is not discernment, because discernment allows you to not to see things in a way that an instinct cannot allow you to see. You can judge somebody on an ability, but the discernment is you got to know if that person is capable of their own ability. Just because you see it, they may not see it. Just like if you pray for somebody, it's not automatic that they'll receive your prayer. So the pray in discernment is another situation. Discernment always has to have a receptive attribute in order for it to work. If it doesn't have a receptive attribute, it doesn't. It's not discernment. It's it's meaningless, because you can be clear all you want. If the person that's in front of you is not being receptive of your clearness of your actions, it don't mean anything. You know what I mean? You could be doing things for the right reason, but they might say it's the wrong thing to do for them. You know what I mean? So discernment has a big realm, and people, they use that word so loosely. Yeah, I'm just, I did this with discernment. Okay, discernment is a well-rounded word. Discernment is not just about you; it's about the person you trying to have discernment for. It's not just for you. It's not a selfish attribute. Discernment is a well-rounded thing. It's like you can have an abundance of a discernment, but it doesn't mean anything if nobody else is going to be able to receive it. So we have to understand what this thing is about. We have to understand the give and takes of this word discernment. You know what I mean? Because if you don't understand that it's an attribute of, you know wellness, an attribute of, judging and wellness and understanding, then you don't have that capability of knowing what it is. The accuracy of discernment is another thing. You have to be very accurate with your discernment, because if you giving out discernment and it's not being accurate, you'll stop using it. Meaning, for example, if I say I'm clear with this person and they turn around and do something the opposite of my discernment, it'll make me not want to be discerned. You know what I mean? It makes you not want to have discernment for anybody else, because you're going to have a pre-received notion that that person or these people are up to no good. for hundreds of years. This, the pre the notion was black people were lazy. But how could we be lazy if we are always working, if we are always trying to build, whether it's a family, a community, a nation, or whatever. But because people have the pre-received notions, discernment could never work for us. And now that we are, able to, feel free, the discernment of us working together is not even being received. We can do it, but the fact that we attack each other, we try to pull each other down and things like that, it can't be discernment, because we are doing the opposite of judging well. We have a preconceived notion, so it's never going to work for us. We have to understand that in order to judge well, we have to read well. We have to stop misreading people. We have to sit there and be observant. We have to sit there and understand that observation and patience is the key to get to the highest point of discernment. You know what I mean? Like if you at the bottom of discernment, you can't understand what discernment is. You can't understand what that means. So we have to understand and sit down and take our time and get our thought process together. We have to take our time to, read a person. We have to take our time to not rush into situations, because if we're rushing into things, discernment can't work either. Everything takes time. So does discernment of a process, of a thought, of a judgment. It takes time. You're not just going to go in there in 2 seconds. I love them, or that person is dope. No, that's why I don't believe in love at first sight, because that's it takes time to grow love. It's the same thing with discernment. It takes time to come to a clear cut, non-judgmental, non-emotional decision in your life. And as long as you rushing things, you can't have discernment. And as long as you have anger problems, you don't have this discernment. And as long as you have mental and emotional situations, you cannot have discernment. You know, it's like somebody telling you that God spoke to them, and then they telling you God spoke to them for you, and they don't follow what God speaks to them. That's like a pastor. A pastor gotta have discernment to understand, if God is really speaking to me, there must be a clarity between me and God. And if I'm getting that voice from God, I have to understand that my mind needs to be focused, and my mind needs to be stayed on God. You can't be out here just giving out your own thing and talking about that's discernment, because that's not what discernment is. Discernment is clarity. So if you hear the voice, there's a discernment of mind, and that voice is of the Lord. You know what I mean? So, but without discernment, you could be hearing anything. You could be hearing your innermost, darkest fears talking to you, and you think it's discernment, and it's not. I mean, it could be if you on that dark side of discernment, but you that's another story for another day. But I'm talking about the positive side of discernment, because if there's balance in life, you can have good discernment and bad discernment. It depends on which way you're going. But I'm gonna just talk about the good discernment, the good decision making, the good judgmental aspect of the thing. Because you want to have a great relationship with somebody, you got to have the discernment of understanding who that person is. If you want to have a great relationship, you must have discernment of who that person is that you're around. Amanda, good morning. You got to have that discernment of understanding who that person is. And if you don't have the time to study and judge a person's character as well as you can, then the discernment is not where it needs to be. We can't just keep picking and choosing how to use discernment. Discernment is just what it is. It's a well judging situation. It's a well judging mechanism, as the definition would go about and say. You gotta have accuracy in reading people in order for discernment to work. You got to have the motives of understanding to have good discernment to in order to assess a person that's coming into your life, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a a due cousin, whatever it is, the discernment, you got to have great accuracy of understanding, great accuracy of judging a person, great accuracy of reading a person. You got to know how to read and not be misread or being misled to have the good discernment. Because if you continuously misled or misreading, you do not have discernment. If you keep finding yourself in a crazy predicament, your discernment is off, right? If you find yourself in negative situations and you trying to be in a positive one, your discernment is off. If you in nasty relationships and you talking about you getting married, but you're in a nasty, crazy predicament, your discernment is way off. That's not discern. You're not reading. You're not reading clearly enough. So you have to take the time to examine yourself. You have to take the time to say, well, what am I doing wrong? Why am I attracting this person, or why is this person, why are these type of people surrounding me? Is it me? You got to examine yourself. Your discernment is off already. But now you may not be able to examine yourself because you don't have the discernment of understanding that you may be the problem. You see what I mean? Everybody thinks that, they're their own best judge of character. But if you get out of your way, you can understand that that may not be the case. I know what I need. If you know what you need, why don't you have it? See, that's what I'm saying. Your discernment is not up to par, because if you know what you need to do, you should be doing it. If you know you're trying to save money, you shouldn't be out there spending it. If you know you trying to make friends, you shouldn't be out there trying to talk about people if you're trying to make friends. If you're trying to be in a loving relationship, you shouldn't have a nasty attitude, right? That's the same thing with discernment. If you know what you got to do, if you know you need clarity, you need to take the time to clear your mind. You need to take the time to clear all of the stuff that you need out of the way so you can be able to read said person. To read the person of understanding, you need the discernment. And if without the discernment, you don't know what you're really looking at because it's not clear enough for you to see. It's just like a person with glasses. If they fog their glasses up, they cannot see clearly enough. So they have to take the glasses off, wipe them off, or do whatever they need to do just to have the window or the lens clear enough so they can see what's in front of them. And when you see what's in front of you, you can have discernment of knowing, all right, I either go straight, make a left, or make a right. If not, I may hit a wall, even if I'm walking. You know what I mean? So that's what discernment is. But we have to take our time to get to that level. We have to take the time and understand what's blocking our clarity. What speck is blocking us from understanding that we are not judging and seeing people in the ways that we need to see them, unless you just want to be alone. Now, if you alone, a discernment don't mean nothing to you. Ritza, good morning. If you're not willing to be in a crowd, discernment don't mean nothing to you. If you're willing to not have friends, discernment don't mean nothing to you. If you're willing to not have the relationship, none of this stuff that I'm talking about means absolutely nothing. But in order to have discernment with people, you need to know how to read a room. You need to know how to judge a person. You need to know how to see clearly. If you see a red flag, you got to investigate the red flag. The red flag may just be a momentary thing, or it may be there long term. You just can't bypass it. So the fact that you don't know how to read a room or read a person, your discernment is not in particular use in that situation. You know, like that's like a good person dates a bad person and think they could change them. Your discernment is not well because you go in there with the preconceived notion that you are able to change a person. What if the person don't want to change? That's not discernment. That's your own personal state of mind. But if that's your own personal state of mind, it's not clear enough for you to see that that person may not want to change. That person may not want to receive your help. That person may not want to receive your love. That person just wants to be alone. More than me. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand what discernment is, you're going to continue to do what you think you're doing is correct. But it's no clarity in your thinking. There's no clarity in your vision. There's no clarity in your thought process. So you don't know what discernment is. You got to sit down and really understand what discernment is. If you don't have the discernment, you are just reading a blank page, so to speak. So you got to sit down and say, what is discernment in my life? What is discernment for me? What is discernment for me to be able to view or see or understand a person? You got to have a clarity of mind. There must be no like discrimination or anything like that, because discrimination is a blockage. Hatred is a blockage, right? You need a clear mind to have discernment. It must be it must be blank, so that way you can see all aspects. But once again, if you go in there like, well, this person ain't worth that conversation, that's not discernment, and you could be missing a person that can give you a good conversation. This person is not a good listener. Now you could be missing out on a person that's a great listener because you don't have the discernment of understanding who that person is. We have to take our time. I know we live in a microwave society, a microwave world, that everything must be now, 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 now. But at the same time, we must have patience to take our time to be able to understand a person that's in front of us, to read a person that's in front of us. Because I'm pretty sure there probably was people like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just talking, talking, talking. But I pray that, me talking is making sense to somebody. But if you have that preconceived notion, you're not going to hear me. You're not going to understand what I'm saying, because you already think I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not understanding how you feel. I'm not listening to what you're saying. I'm not paying attention to what your wants or needs are. That's not discernment, because there's already a preconceived notion. There's no clarity in your preconceived notion. But with discernment, you must have the clear mind of understanding. You must have the clear vision of being able to read what's in front of you. Like, people could put up a facade, but if you don't have discernment, you won't see the facade. You'll see the facade as genuineness. You'll see the facade as authenticity. And it ain't even that, because your discernment is not where it needs to be. You're seeing what's in front of you, but you're not reading what's in front of you. It's a big difference. So you must understand what you have to do in order to have discernment. It's not just to see it, but you must read it. You must understand it. You must view it. You must dissect it. But if you don't have none of those, if you don't have those attributes, you're only seeing what's in front of you. And it may not be a realness that's in front of you. So, you guys, we just have to take our time of knowing what's going on. We have to take our time to be able to understand what a person is, or who a person is, and what they present in front of us. Because even when you first meet somebody, they could put on a great front. So your discernment may or may not be able to pick that up. But later on down the line, as you get to know a person, you should be able to understand, well, you're not acting the same way. So now my discernment is telling me you may be trying to deceive me. But if it's continuing to be the way it is, your discernment is, hey, he's the same way he was, or she was the same way when I first met them. Right? It takes time to read a person. It takes time to understand a person. It takes time to gain discernment of your mind. of your decision makings, of what you're viewing, and what your results will be through the discernment. It's not going to be an overnight thing. Like I said, that's why I don't believe in love at first sight, because it takes time for that as well. It takes time for you to like a person, not just because they wear blue sneakers or she she looks good. That's a lustful situation. That's a different type of, I don't even know if there's a different type of discernment. There may be, but it's not the discernment that I'm talking about. The discernment I'm talking about is you taking the time to get to know a person. When I first got up here, right, it would be me. She would be encouraging me. I'm like, why she keep encouraging me? Because she saw something, and she had a discernment that I could be something, someone that is encouraging. Watermelon was like that too. So that's why a lot of the times I would give them, kudos and shout outs, because those are, and Maritza too. Some of them, those three in particular, was one of the very beginning, in the very beginning of me start. They encouraged me to start this thing. So they saw something, and they had a discernment about me being the the person that I am trying to, or I'm pertaining to be. They must have said to themselves, it's not a facade that he would go out there and pray with a person, or he would go out there and ask a person if they okay. That's the genuineness they must have seen in me. And I thank them for seeing that, and encouraging me to do that. Because sometimes you can believe that you're doing the right thing, but there somebody else's discernment can confirm what you already, or what you believe. It may push you into doing something greater, because their discernment is allowing you to be confirm what you already believe that you have. See, you can doubt yourself, but someone else's discernment can encourage you to elevate yourself into a better person, into a greater you. And that's what discernment is always going to supposed to do anyway. It's supposed to elevate. It's supposed to elevate, because it's a simple fact. You can see someone clear as day. You can look right in their eyes and say, yo, you are pure. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. Some people can see that, and say, yo, you are a very good person, or there's something going on with you. You may not have to say a word, but your eyes is telling somebody, hey, I'm reading you. What's the matter? Are you okay? What happened? And that discernment may open up and allow a person to speak to you, because you read it correctly. How did you know? Oh, I was just looking at you, and I just felt something was wrong. When your mind is right, it allows feelings to be accurate with your mind. It allows feelings to be accurate with your heart and your soul. So the discernment, when all of three of those work together, is a beautiful thing. But we keep a one-way situation. But you need all of it to work like a well running engine, in order for it to be at its peak, at its greatest. So we have to sit down and train ourselves and figure out what's the best way to get discernment working in our lives. We must understand that we must have a clarity of emotions. We must understand that our emotions can't be in the forefront of our thought process. We must understand that we be able to see clearly, and not be focused on fogginess in our lives. It must be like a clear day, in order to see the 10 miles of focus that we can see all the way down the road. But if we can't see clearly, and our emotions is blocking it, we're not able to have the discernment that we need to go forward in each and every day life. That's why you must continuously clear your mind if you're trying to build something with someone. Discernment is not just a hit and miss situation. It takes time for you to have the clarity to see and understand what's going on in somebody's life, in your life, because your clarity is important. Just because they can see you, you got to understand. You got to see them as well. It must work both ways. So we must sit down and know what discernment is. So hopefully, some of us that are here, and some of us that catch the replay, understands that without clarity, discernment is not operable in anybody's life. So, continue to examine yourself, continue to work on yourself, continue to understand what discernment really and truly is. If you don't know, if you didn't understand the definition of it, try to put it in another aspect to see if it works for you. See if you can judge somebody with preconceived notions. See if you can view somebody with a speck in your eye. See if you can have a discernment of love with hatred in your attributes. It can't work. But you guys go ahead and try it and see if it works. And if my definition is correct, you should be able to apply it in your life and see if the discernment is working for you, as I pray is working for me. But if I'm wrong, I don't mind correction. Discernment allows me to be corrected. You see what I mean? Because if you can correct me, that means I've done something wrong. And I'm a person that loves to be corrected. So your discernment level may be higher than mine. I'm willing to learn from you. If your understanding is greater than mine, I'm willing to learn from you. If your patience is greater than mine, I'm willing to learn how to be that patient. If you know how to love somebody better than I do, I would love to learn from you. All of those key attributes are a part of discernment. Because if you go in there with a, like I said, I've been saying it, with a preconceived notion, it cannot work. So just take your time and try to get to the understanding of discernment. Don't just try to build relationships off of guess. Don't just go up there and try to build situations with a belief. Discernment allows you to see, but better yet, it allows you to know what is ahead of you going forward, or what's in front of you going forward. It's not a belief, because belief could always lead to doubt. It leaves doubt in the format. But knowing is knowing, right? Clarity allows you to discernment allows you to have knowing. It clearly allows you to see things in an aspect of no doubt. So that's what we need to work on as we go forward. And with that being said, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm running out of explanations of what discernment means for me. I already said the definition, but to clear it up, like I said, I'll do the definition for you. The definition of discernment is the ability to judge well, or the perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding for those that are in a spiritual aspect of discernment. The you know the you know the simplest form is to judge well, but when you're dealing with the spiritual side, you gotta have more than just judging. Your observation has to be on point. Try the spirit of the spirit. That's another way of doing that. So that's how it is with spirituality. So we just got to continue to go forward. We got to continue to learn what these things are. We got to be better judges of character, but without discernment we cannot be. So we have to continue to work on those type of things. And if we don't work on them, we are just in a place of confusion, and we could never come to a straight point with confusion. We must know, we must have clarity. That's a part of discernment. So as long as we continue to work on ourselves, our perception must be accurate. Discernment, it has to be accurate. So our perception has to be accurate. So, with that being said, I believe Word is getting ready to start his live. So I'm gonna end my conversation here. Y'all, if y'all still here, y'all join the words conversation. This conversation is about narcissism versus Machiavellianism. And in an odd way, you must have discernment to understand the difference between those two. So thank y'all for stopping by. I pray that this word actually meant something to y'all. And like I said, if you still awake or if you still here and you want to hear somebody, y'all go ahead and tune into what the word is getting ready to talk about. Commander, if you I don't know if everybody subscribed to word, could you put his link up there just in case everybody's not subscribed to him, please? So yeah, I just like I said, that's what discernment is for me. And everybody uses it so loosely. And that's why there's many different perceptions of discernment. But for me, discernment is clarity of reading, understanding, and observing people. You must read a person to see if they are themselves. You must observe if they are genuine and things of that nature. So, like I said, we just have to know what these things are and apply it to our lives. We just can't, just say, well, their perception of discernment is what it is. Some of us got to do our own research with that thing. Yo, get off, man. I was getting off so you could start. I just told everybody I was coming over to you, guy. I was leading them over there, and I was just telling them you're live about narcissism and Machiavellianism, or versus it. You must have the discernment to do that. So I was ending so you can get ahead and start. You need a couple of minutes? If you need a couple of minutes, let me know. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could. Shout out to Miss 702. She been here for a while, so I think she heard everything that we needed to have. So with that being said, guys, like I said, I'm gonna give Word a couple of minutes. If he starts, we gonna roll over there, so we can have that conversation over there as well. So, Word, are you still here, or you getting ready to start? Give me a thumbs up if you're going over. If not, you know what I mean. This guy over here, Commander. Somebody gotta go to HR. I'm just saying. But yeah, I just know that word is being used loosely. Well, not loosely. I just know people use it without the full impact of the word. You know, well, discernment is this, this, and this. Okay, can you have discernment if you have blockage? No. Can you have discernment if you are distracted? No. Can you have discernment if you're emotional? I've been ready. I'm in 3 play. Well, start your live then. Can you have this discernment with emotional situations? No. You must have clarity. You cannot have this. You cannot read well if there's something in your eye. That's what I'm trying. Smith 702. I'm trying to get him to start. He don't listen. He don't listen at all. But if you don't have that clarity, I promise you, your discernment is not on target. It's like you know when you go to the amusement park. If you don't have the accuracy of putting that water in that little hole, the balloon won't blow up. It won't burst, and you'll be a loser. When you have discernment, you have more opportunities of winning or being correct in a situation than being wrong. Even if it's 75-25, you'll take 75% of chance of winning than 25% of losing. And he's live, y'all. So with that being said, y'all go ahead and jump over to Word. I thank y'all, the 702. I appreciate you being here. Commander, as always, I appreciate you. Meek, I thank you for stopping by. I know you was in the cuts. Watermelon, I appreciate you stopping by. But you get some rest because you said you got to work in the morning. So with that being said, y'all, I appreciate y'all stopping by, and I'm out.